This conference will now be recorded.
All right, so in the last session, we were discussing about the Microsoft Azure account, how to create the Azure account, and to create Azure account, how to create a Microsoft mail ID, and that account, how to create a free subscription. Under the free subscription, what are all the under the free subscription, what are all the advantages, what are all the things they are providing, we have seen. And then after, what is a resource group manager and what is a resource, how to create a resource group manager under a particular subscription, and how to create a resource. Yesterday we have created a virtual machine. We created a virtual machine and we connect to the virtual machine from our remote desktop. It's a Windows operating system virtual machine. So today what I'm going to discuss, I'm going to log into the Azure account and I want to store something inside the Microsoft Azure. If you want to store anything inside the Microsoft Azure cloud environment, definitely you need to create one storage account. Based on the type of the data, what you are going to store, then you need to create the storage type, whether it is a blob storage or a table storage or a file share or a queues, whatever it is. There are 4 different kind of storage modes available. But first you need to create the storage account. Inside the storage account, we have to select storage mode. That is the second step. So storage account is a one kind of service available inside the Microsoft Azure. So the storage account will support to store the data any kind of structured, unstructured, semi-structured. This is very low cost compared to any kind of storage inside the Microsoft Azure. So now what I'm going to do here, I'm going to log into the account whatever we created in the last session, Microsoft Azure account, by going to the azure.com. So simply go to the azure.com by using your mail ID and password and sign in. So go to the web browser, come to the azure.com. Inside this azure.com, whatever the email password you used for the free subscription, enter that username password. So already I have signed in, then I don't need to enter that username password. It's by default it will take. Then once you are logged into azure.com, there is a portal option you can see. Okay, already I have signed into Azure account. So there is a portal option. A portal option is the place where you are going to perform this process. Perform creating the services and resources. Click on this portal. So this is the Azure portal we have. So what I'm going to do here, if you want to see about your subscriptions, anything if you want, just type over here. You can just search for your subscription, what is the status of your subscription, whether it is disabled or enabled, and how much cost till now we have spent on this. You can observe over here. So 348 rupees we have spent till now. Okay, and the subscription is, it's a free trial subscription we have. And if you want to see each resource wise how much cost we have spent, that information you can see. Okay, so my requirement is I want to create a storage account. Storage account is one of the service available inside the Microsoft Azure. A storage account is the place where you are going to store any kind of data, whether it is structured, unstructured, or semi-structured. Then you can simply go to this menu and there you can see there is a storage account option. Did you find anything? Yes, there is a storage account. If you're not able to find here, then The other way to find a service is on the top search bar, storage account. See here, there is a service available, storage account. So simply click on the storage account. To create a storage account, then you need to click on the add storage account. So simply click on add storage account, or it just come down create storage account. Click on the create storage. So here you need to create the storage account. The subscription is a free trial subscription, and the resource group is a, you need to create a resource group. If you remember, last time I told very clearly, if you want to create any service or the resource that we are going to create under the resource group manager. Okay. So first you need to create a resource group manager. That resource group manager you can create over here as well. So click on create resource group manager. I'm going to give it as a E-classes is my resource group manager. So any services you are going to create, you need to map under a particular resource group. So next, now I'm creating storage account. Next, if I'm creating a data factory, so data factory is also one of the service I'm going to use for this project. Then I'm going to map that into this resource group whatever I have created. So if you are creating one time the resource group, you can use later when you are creating any kind of service this resource group. A resource group is mapping and grouping of all your resources into one umbrella, like a project. So it is considering all these services what we are creating under one particular project over here. Okay, so simply you can come down, and this is the resource group. And what is your storage account name? The storage account name is, you can give any name. I'm going to give the storage account name as E-classes storage. Okay, so the name should be, the field can contain only lower letters and numbers, so you cannot give caps letter. E-classes storage is my storage account name, and in which location you are going to deploy this storage account. What is the meaning of the location? Location is nothing but physically Microsoft is managing the data center. A data center contains a lot of servers and CPUs. So whatever the operations you are doing here virtually, in the back end it is going to store somewhere in the data center. All right. For example, a simple example, Google Drive. When you are creating a Gmail, Google is giving 15 GB of the space for you. You are uploading all your all the photos and audios, videos in your computer into Google Drive. So what is the meaning of uploading the files and storing into a cloud? That's nothing but it is going to store somewhere in other machines managed by other company, right? Google has a data center, their own data center, and it is going to store all your data uploaded in the Google Drive into other machines, right? So similarly, they are maintaining their location of the data centers in different locations. So where exactly you are going to store, that you need to specify over here, in which data center you are going to store the information. Okay, so whichever is nearer to your location, better you can select for more faster the reading of the data and uploading of the data, instead of keeping the data center so far. Okay, so simply I'm going to use the default one whatever we have, or if you want to select near in your India, there is a South India, West India we have. Okay, South India and West India, two locations we have. And then after, performance. What is the meaning of performance? When you are creating the storage account, what kind of option we need to select over here? Storage account under the performance, one is standard and premium. Standard and premium. So what is the meaning of standard and premium? So you are trying to store the data in somewhere in the data center through this Azure. So the storage is what kind of memory system you are trying to use to store. There are two kind of things. One is standard and another one is the premium. What is the meaning of standard? What the standard contains, what's the premium? When you are selecting premium, what features you will get? So standard means, you can read over here. Standard storage accounts are backed by magnetic drives. The standard contain magnetic drives. What do you mean by magnetic drives? And this premium will contain SSD drives, means solid state drives. What is the difference between the magnetic drives and solid state drives? The magnetic drives mean, if you remember, when you are purchasing the computer, they are telling two kind of memories. One is a hard disk HDD memory and SSD memory. So SSD memory they will give less, and HDD memory they will give up to 500 GB, 1000 GB. In a laptop, when they are selling, the SSD memory is the less number of GB and HDD is more number of GB. Am I right? The reason because the HDD memory cost is very low because it is using magnetic drives. The SSD memory cost is high. Also, the HDD memory, if you have something inside the HDD, if you are trying to read that, it is bit performance is low. But when you have something inside the SSD memory, your system performance will be more. If you are trying to open a audio or video file existing in HDD, it will take some time to open. But if it is in the SSD, it will come very fastly, if you observe. And mostly the SSD memory, what they are allocating to the computer, we are using to install a operating system related files into that SSD memory. The SSD memory occupied in your laptop with the installation of the operating system OS. The HDD memory we are using in our laptops mostly for the storing of our files, data, movies, audios, videos, all the requested files. The reason because your operating system, when your booting time of your computer is more faster when your operating system storage is a SSD. When your operating system is installed by using a HDD, your computer, your laptop boot time is taking more time. The reason because the Apple iPad or laptop, the boot time when you are opening the laptop, it is coming very faster. The reason because they are using SSD memory to install the operating system. Whichever the laptops, computers are installing your operating system SSD memory, reading of that files from that memory is very fast. So when your computer is booting, it is reading all the configuration files and operating system files from the SSD. So it will come, your boot time is less and your OS will come up very fast and your system will start within a seconds of the time. But HDD is completely different. But the cost of the memory 10 GB of the SSD cost is equal to 100 GB of the HDD cost. So SSD cost is high and performance also high. HDD cost is less and the performance is less. So in what kind of scenarios we are going to prefer HDD? In what kind of scenarios SSD will be preferred? You are going to store the data inside this Azure memory, but the data what you are going to store, you are not going to access frequently. You are just storing a backup data. You are just storing a backup of the data. So in that kind of situations, then you can simply go to with less cost of the storage is HDD. That is nothing but standard. Or if you want more faster to read the data from your data source system, where you are storing in your Azure account, more accessing, you are frequently accessing and you need a better performance, then go ahead with the SSD. Mostly the recommendable is magnetic drives. So this is cost low, performance low, but this is cost high, this is performance high. So I don't recommend to use the premium. But if you remember, yesterday I created a virtual machine. A virtual machine contains operating system and images, OS images, and so many files related to operating system. Correct? To store all these OS and images and any kind of thing related to a virtual machine, by default your Azure will create okay, your Azure will create a system, your Azure will create a storage account, and the performance it will select premium by default. It is happening when you are creating a virtual machine automatically. You are creating a virtual machine, but this virtual machine is required a storage account to store all this information, and it will create a storage account and it's a premium. Okay, it's a premium. Any question over here? Okay, perfect. So finally I'm going to select the standard mode because it is going to store the data. It is going to store the data in a standard mode with less cost, but I don't use frequently to access this data. I have a lot of backup in my computers, history of the data. Then I will keep that data into here. Perfect. Now coming over here. So what is the next option? Account kind. There are three different kind of storage. There are three kind of generation of the accounts we have. One is a storage version 2, another one is a storage version 1. So what kind of account type you can select over here? Storage Gen 2, storage Gen 1. storage gen 2, gen 1, blob storage. So the gen 2 means the storage generation 2 account contains more the features comparing to gen 1. The one new feature added over here is the security related improvements, and the storage generation 1 contains, one important feature is security related, and the second one is data lake. Data lake is integrated with this storage account. Data lake is integrated with the storage account. And this blob, the storage generation 1, storage generation 2 comparing, you are getting more the features in the storage generation 2. And what is this blob storage? So when you are selecting storage generation 1 and storage generation 2, you are able to select any kind of storage mode, storage gen 1 or gen 2 you are selecting while you are creating the storage account. Either you can use later blob storage or table or file share or queues. But the third option, account kind, is a blob storage. If you are selecting the only blob storage, you are able to create only blob storage mode only. You cannot see table storage, file share, queues. Other three different storage modes are not available if you are selecting a blob storage. It is dedicatedly for this blob storage. And also, when you are selecting the storage kind is a generation 1, then you are losing replication methods. You have only 3 replication methods when you have storage generation 1. But when you are going to the storage generation 2, you will get more the storage accounts over here. All right. Okay. So what is a replication method? Obviously, I will use storage version to general purpose v2. What is the replication method? And the difference of the data lake, how to integrate also I will show you. So simply go to advanced over here. Under the advanced, you can see there is a data lake storage. If you want to convert this normal storage into, a data lake is a big data Hadoop storage. That is something internally, hierarchically, it is organizing the data. But this normal storage is going to use object model. It's a kind of a folder way it is going to store. If you want to convert normal storage into big data lake storage, then you will get that option here. Instead of disable option, you can enable. But this data lake storage gen 2 option will be enabled when you are selecting the account kind is a version 2. If I am selecting version 1 and go to advanced option over here, see that data lake storage option is disabled. The current combination of storage account kind, performance, replication, location does not support hierarchical namespace feature. So you need to select the version 2 only. The version 2 only it will support. Okay, all right. So then after, there are different kind of replication strategies available. What is the meaning of replication? Replication means Microsoft Azure will maintain the 3 copies of your backup. You are storing the data in Microsoft Azure data centers. So you selected the North Europe. North Europe is the location you are selecting. In this North Europe, whatever you are selecting over here, it will copy the primary copy into the North Europe. If something happen in this data center due to the natural calamities or whatever it is, so your data will be lost. Then how this Microsoft Azure is going to managing the security of data and the durability. Durability means availability. So something happened for the primary location. Is it going to maintain the backup? What is the backup strategy? In how many backup copies it is going to manage? So that is nothing but replication method. So under this replication method, based on your option, whichever you want, you can select. Locally redundant storage means in the same data center, it will make 3 copies. I don't think this is more useful. Something happened for your data center, all the 3 copies of the backup will be gone. Zone redundant storage, ZRS, means in the same zone within 3 different data centers, it is going to maintain the copy. The next one is geo redundant storage. Geo redundant storage means, okay, geo redundant storage means what will happen? The geo redundant storage in different geographical locations. It's not the same zone. It's a different geographical locations. Let's, for example, it's Asia Pacific or some other locations. Those are the geographical locations. It will maintain the 3 copies in different locations. When you are coming to this, read access geo redundant storage means here it is going to maintain the 6 copies, not the 3 copies. The first 3 copies it is going to maintain in one geographical location. Other 3 copies will maintain in a different geographical location. When something happens for these primary copies of the geography location, it will go to the secondary geographical location backup. But your application, when something happens for the first location, your application will not get the data immediately from the secondary, because in this read access geo redundant storage, it will take some time to up the backup storage to become available to read the data. Then coming to this geo redundant storage, and this is also different region, different geographical locations, different geolocations. It will again maintain the 6 copies of the data. Okay, so here again the geo zone redundant storage, the first 3 copies in one particular geographical location within different zones, and the second 3 copies will be in a different geographical location in different zones. But the secondary copy is not available immediately when it is happening. If you want to make that available, you need to go to the read access geo zone redundant storage. The difference between geo redundant storage and geo zone redundant storage is, geo means 2 different geographical locations it will select, but within the same zone. But here geo zone redundant storage means with two different geographical locations, but zones are different. Two different zones it will select in to maintain the three copies. First three copies in one geographical location, three different zones, and in the second geographical location, three different zones it will select. But when something happen in one of the geographical location, the second geographical location is not available immediately. It will take some time to up your backup data. But if you want to make immediately to read the access data, then you need to go to the read access geo-redundant storage. Okay, so this replication strategy decide it's not in our hand. This can be decided by the architecture of the Azure. So we are a developers. Mostly the creating of the storage accounts, creating of the resources is not in our hand. Whatever the resources, services created by the Azure administrators or someone in your project, they will take care about the budget, because creating a resource means you need to consider how much cost you are going to spend for this one. That cost will be vary based on the replication method you are going to select, based on the performance method you are selecting, based on the account kind you are selecting. So all these things needs to be decided before you are going to create storage account. So we decided standard, we decided version 2, we decided locally redundant storage, and what is the access type. Here you can select either cool method or hot method. The data what you are going to store in the storage account, if you want to read the data very frequently, means daily you are reading the data, you need the data, then go ahead with hot method. Hot method is more faster to read the data. Cool method is if you are reading the data unfrequently, very rarely you are querying the data. See, the account access type is the default type that is inferred by the blob without explicitly set type. Hot access type is ideal for frequently access data. Hot type, hot access type is ideal for frequently accessing the data from your storage account. Okay. Cool access type is ideal for infrequently. You are accessing the data irregularly, then you can go ahead with the cool type. So I'm going to use the cool type only, then review and create the storage account. The security of the storage accounts, all those things we will see in the next step. Click create the storage account. It is going to create a storage account under a resource group E-classes. So a resource is created. Do you want to go to the storage account? So simply go to the resource over here. So your storage account name is E-classes storage. So I told you, right, under the storage account, again you need to select what kind of storage mode you want. Containers is nothing but a blob storage. Containers is nothing but a blob storage. We have 4 different kind of storage modes, and file share is another kind of storage mode, and tables is another kind of storage mode, and queues is another kind of storage mode. Under one storage account there are 4 different kind of storage modes available: containers, file shares, tables, and queues. Okay, so after creating the storage mode, based on the data what you are going to store, you need to select what kind of storage mode you want. So there are 4 different kind of storage modes. Storage modes available. One is blob storage, nothing but containers. The second one is table storage mode. The third one is file share. The fourth one is queues. So what is a blob storage and what kind of data it will support? The blob storage is nothing but it's a binary large objects. When you are uploading the data into this blob storage, it will convert each file and data into a binary large object. So any kind of files, audios, videos, it can be a structured, unstructured, semi-structured. Any kind of data you can store into a blob storage. A structured data is something, it has a columns, rows, that is structured. Unstructured means audios, videos, there is no proper structure for that. Semi-structured means XML files, JSON files, all those kind of files is a semi-structured. So that kind of data, anything you for backup storage you want to store, you can go ahead with the blob storage. I have a files in my computer. All the files contains huge volume of the data. That files I want to store into my blob storage. So you can create a blob storage container, and inside the container you can upload all the files by needing a folder. Coming to the table storage. A table storage is something can create a table structure. Table structure means contains columns, contains rows. It contains a columns and rows over here. So if you want to store some employee information or products information with a proper structure, with a table kind of model, you can go ahead with the table structure. File share means, for example, any kind of file can be used by multiple applications. So without having any deadlock, because sometimes when you are trying to open a file, other application may not access. So to avoid that kind of situations, mostly we are using for configuration files. One configuration file can accessed by multiple applications. In that kind of situations, you can use a method of file share. You can put that file, the configuration file, in one centralized location and applications can access. A simple example, your operating systems, your virtual machines need a configuration file that can be stored in the file share method. And coming to the queues, under the queues, for example, if you want to store some messages, and that messages you are going to send in a proper order to your application. So all the messages needs to be stored inside the queues. That is another kind of method, storing a messages. For example, hardware and software, embedded systems. Your washing machine contains a software that is going to embed with your hardware. That means you are passing some messages. Based on that time frame and the messages what you are sending, your washing machine will act. Initially, a first message I'm going to send, take a water. The next message I will send, heat the water. The next message, wash the clothes, then rinse the clothes. So this is how you are sending some signals, messages, and that messages based on that your machine is trying to operate itself by taking the signals. So those kind of messages, if you want, you can use queues. As a Azure BI developers, 99% we are using these two storage modes. As a Azure developers, anybody wants to design it, apps, any other things, they will use file share and queues. We are the business intelligence developers. Either we can store the data in a blob. If you want a structured data to be stored in a table format, you can use table storage. So we are going to demonstrate more on these two kind of storage modes only, either a blob storage or a table storage.
Ram, can you please repeat the last statement, please?
Queue statement.
Yeah, file share and queues. Who will use them?
So file share is basically, we are keeping some configuration files, a lot of information, some applications. Instead of managing all the configuration information, creating multiple files, we are going to put in one file all the configuration information inside that file. All the applications are going to use that file, read, and it take the input of the configuration information from that file. So that file we are going to keep into a file share storage method. Sometimes, mostly when you are creating the virtual machines also, you have these many virtual machines. Virtual machine 1, VM1, VM2, all these virtual machines having some similar configuration sometimes. So that information input, instead of keeping into individually for each files, we are going to keep into one set of config file. So this file can be accessed by these all applications, can be used, and sharing of this file to multiple applications without any kind of lockings and any kind of deadlocks. That is a file share. A queue is basically we are storing the messages inside the queues. We are storing the messages, whatever the messages you want to store, message 1, message 2, message 3, message 4, in a proper order. Your application will read the messages, and we will set some expiry time for each message. After the time, message will not be available in your queue. For example, your aeroplane getting some signals. As per the signals and messages, it will try to do the operations. Okay. Any kind of embedded systems mostly take messages. As per that message, it will pass the signal and doing the operations. That kind of messages, if you want to store in the queues, you can use the queue storage method. So tomorrow what I will do, I am trying to make this blob storage and table storage, file share, queues, how to create the blob, how to create the table storage and file share queues, and we will demonstrate practically in the next session about these 4 things. Any questions on today's session?
So as part of Azure BI, which storage we will use most? All of them or only?
Only these two we will use.
Other two will
Mostly blob we never use for the business intelligence developers. Mostly Azure developers. Someone wants to design apps, web applications.
So they will be used file share and queues, isn't it?
Yeah, they might use blob also, but as a business developers, will use mostly blob and table.
So ideally, in a company, who will create all these things, like Azure admins, or we need to create all this, resource group and the storage account?
Mostly the role to create these services is the service administrator. Mostly the admin person will take in care of creating the resources. It depends on the organization. So when a big organization having a proper team and structure, definitely the administrator needs to take in care. So small organizations, yes, sometimes we have to create, but the decision needs to be taken care by many people.
Okay,
As per the instructions, they will provide what performance, what account kind, what replication method we need to use. Once they are finalizing, then we will create or someone create whatever.
And also, like, when we create the resource manager, where it's typically we are going to create the VM mission, isn't it? To run any particular software, we need to have certain RAM, certain, hard disk or STD that will also defined by developer or will be defined by architect, like while
Definitely,
creating the mission.
the defining anything is decided by architect
Okay.
because they have some budget. Based on that budget, the requirement. So you cannot use the premium mode unnecessarily, right? It's
Mhm.
wasting of your cost because you are not reading the data. You need more storage. Reading of the data, you don't. It's not your priority. So these kind of decisions can be taken care by a group of people. It's not in one man. Mostly, it's a group of people. We are going to segregate this information, and then we will decide that your team lead or someone, the superiors only will take care of the decisions.
All right. Thank you.
Any other questions from anyone? Questions from anyone? All right, guys. So what I'm expecting from you, can you please ping me your mail IDs in the group, whatever we created? I hope all of you are in that group. So please ping me your Gmails on the group. Okay, I will talk each and everyone individually. So we will continue tomorrow session. Thank you guys. Thanks for joining.
Thank you.